What's up, guys? I'm thrilled to be here, continuing with the Mental Health Awareness series. I'll give everyone a moment to join. We're doing this live. Kirsten, awesome to see you. Chelsea, Cheyenne, what's up? Let me know where you guys are coming from. I would love for you to hang out. We've got Megan Monahan coming on. She's amazing. She's a meditation instructor. She's an author. She's a Chopra Center protege. Amazing, super thoughtful, super creative, super helpful, super insightful woman. So can't wait to have her join any minute now. Great to see you, Brian. How's it going, Chelsea? How's it going, Kirsten? And guys, check it out. Megan Monahan has just entered the room, so she'll be joining us any moment. Because in the flesh. Hey, Lisa. Good to see you guys.
Hi.
Megan Monahan. There she is.
What's up?
How's
Hi.
it going? You look fabulous.
Oh, thanks. Is this good? Was this the good lighting? Make sure we're all thriving over here.
Yeah, totally thriving. And just for the record, Kirsten totally just gave your book a shout out. Don't Hate, Meditate. Available everywhere books are sold, ladies and gentlemen.
You mean this book that I always have on hand for moments just like this?
That's the one. There it is.
So subtle. So subtle.
Who needs subtlety? We just got to know what the book is. You know, we just got to, the people got to know.
We have to know. How are you doing?
I'm doing a great job. I'm having a blast. Life is good. How are you?
I feel pretty good. I think you and I have talked about this. I feel like this is like the Super Bowl that I wasn't sure I was training for, like I've been doing all these like reps, conditioning exercises for like my mind. And this is the point where I'm like, oh, I was training for this moment. I thought I was training for like all the other hard moments, but it turns out I was training for this moment. So
right. And all of the other hard ones.
And
so spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more to come. But yeah, I was actually just really feeling that way today too, just so grateful that I've got my practice, that I've been meditating, that I'm like super tuned into non-attachment to outcomes.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that you can do right now is to like just have agency over your mind.
Whoa, so good. Yeah, such a good way to say that. From like a spiritual perspective, all the different ancient traditions, they say that one of the great things that we have as humanity, as children of the divine, is free agency, is free will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really liked what you said, the agency over the mind. So that's really good. Yeah. So Megan, talk to us. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. You are a font of epic wisdom. So I was just telling everyone a little bit about your background. You're a Chopra Center trained meditation teacher. You're a best-selling author, and you're just a total princess in the meditation world. You're blowing up. I see you left and right on everything. You're killing it, helping so many different people. And so I want to just sort of like tune into what your mental health, how you cultivate mental wellness, like in your life, and how that translates into your work.
Yeah. I've been really asking myself, especially throughout this last like 3 months that we've been in, 2.5, 3 months that we've been in. And I do this regularly, but very much so right now. I ask myself a lot, like, where is my story showing? And I think, depending on where you are in your journey of self-discovery and unbecoming, you start to realize what your story has been. You start to realize the story you've been telling yourself, the story you've been feeding with experience after experience after experience, and becomes easier to see where that story is serving you and where it's not. And so one of the big things that I do as really a very regular check-in is just to say, like, where is my story showing? Is it showing in the way that I'm feeling about this relationship right now? Or is it showing in the way that I'm responding to this thing that was just said to me, or the way that I'm responding to this like stranger that I don't know, that doesn't know me, or the way that I'm responding to my bank account? Like, where is my story showing? And when I find a spot where my story is like, here I am, Hi, I'm back. I really take time to lean into that and to question it, to question the thoughts around it, to question where there's still some residue. There's that great, I think it's Rumi. It's either Rumi or Hafiz. It's one of those like amazing Sufi poets who said, "How will the mirror be polished if you are irritated with every rub?" So I've gotten very comfortable in the discomfort that comes with polishing that mirror. And that's one of the biggest things that I do for my mental health.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, and so obviously you're a meditator, so you meditate regularly, and so when it comes to meditation, like, talk to me about what makes like what makes Megan Monahan's approach to meditation Megan Monahan's.
I think for me, it's always, and this is a lot because of my background, because I did not come from a meditation background. I think my approach is very much like no BS. Everything is allowed, and it's okay to have it be light and funny. It's okay if it is enjoyable, if it's fun, if there's, I don't know, I think, there's a lot of meditation and a lot of the conversation around meditation that just feels very like heavy and serious. And I say all the time, I have such reverence for this practice. This practice saved my life and continues to show up as like the life preserver to like fish me out of the waters of doubt and scarcity and fear and all of the things that, that I was swimming in prior to meditation. This is the most important thing in my life, but it's also okay for it to be really light and fun and accessible and part of like the fabric of your everyday lives. Like, I never wanted meditation to feel like this thing that you pull away from and do in this very serious, specific way. And then you go back into your life and you're like flowing in your life. I really strive for my own practice and for anyone that I have the privilege of, teaching, to have it just be all a flow. And yes, there is the time that you are sitting and practicing meditation, but how are you really bringing that awareness into the entirety of your day, into every single moment, whether that moment is like, do I watch another episode on this Netflix show, or how do I respond to this phone call, or something more serious?
Right. And I have to just say, you guys, that is so true about Megan Monahan. I've known this woman for years. You live that way. You really, really do. You have one of the things that really makes, I asked you what makes Megan Monahan's approach. As a witness, I will say integrity. You have such profound integrity. You take it so deeply with you. And that's where I think the levity can still be powerful. You're light about it, but you're never unserious about it. You know? And it's so true. And every conversation I have with you, it's like a meditation. It's like you're so good at conscious, mindful conversation, mindful processing, going through things in a really, really conscious way. Can I share a story? Can I share a Megan Monahan story?
Yeah. What could go wrong here?
Okay, so guys, this just came out. This was not a plan. So I've known Megan for several years. Megan was, I think the first time we actually met, I was encouraged to like befriend you by our friend Susie Olive Schwartz, the founder of Unplug Meditation. She was like, "You'll love Megan Monahan. You need to go be friends with her." Right when Unplug was opening, So we were part of that first real crop of teachers over there, and it was just before Wanderlust. Hollywood, the center in Hollywood was opening, and I was being told, like, go make friends with this person, she's your soulmate. And Susie's totally psychic. She's way more psychic than she realizes, because as soon as I connected to you, I felt really, really safe in your presence, and I felt like I could be really, really honest with you, and I didn't feel a sense of competition at all. And so here's the story. Guys, Megan was the director of meditation at Wanderlust. I think this is the first time I actually met you. And I was coming in to teach, to sort of like see if I could teach there. And I was talking to you, and I led you into meditation, and we were talking about it and everything. And we decided, hey, maybe I should start teaching there. And so the story actually comes in a couple weeks later. I've been teaching the 7 a.m. class a few times a week. miss it one day. And then I miss it another day. And I lived like a block away.
Like this emoji. This is the emoji. The emoji that goes like this. That's the emoji.
Baseball. Totally. And it was, I remember what was going on. I had a lot going on in my life at the time, and whatever. I was also still, I was in my 20s, you know, like living the dream. And I missed, I don't think it was 2 days in a row, but like 2 days within like 2 weeks of each other. And Megan calls me basically to reprimand me. And what I remember you saying was, okay, so talk to me. You missed, I don't think I missed them. I think I was like late to both of them. You were late to 2 classes. So what's up? And you were so chill about it. You literally said, so what's up? And I said, you know, to be honest, I don't have an excuse. I can't, you know, I'm so sorry. I really felt bad about it. I was like, that's not how I want to do things. That's not what I really, really love teaching at Wanderlust. That's not what I'm trying to do. And it's not going to happen again. And what you said to me was, okay, cool. Well, it's all good. Don't do it again. But also don't like make up a story and like make yourself feel bad about this, you know, like have a good day. We like you teaching at Wanderlust. People love your class. And so is there anything you want to talk about before we go? And you just made it so safe. I was like, okay, can this woman have like 25 kids because she needs to be a mother? Do you remember that?
I do remember that because I had to have a conversation with you and with one other teacher, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to like do as like a colleague, you know, but also as someone who was kind of managing this program, and it was like the beginning of a studio, and you know, so there were a lot of factors that were going to play, and it was really hard for my story, right, was it my narrative very much used to be like this codependent, like I try to manage other people's feelings and like other people's state. And if they don't feel good, I don't feel good, right? That was a big part of my old conditioning. And I really had to like check that when I was having like that conversation with you. And so that was like a big like learning thing for me too. So I'm glad it landed well with you. But yeah, I remember that conversation. Yeah.
I was so impressed with how you handled it. I was like, this is such a good woman. I could just tell, from the way that you navigated it and how you talked to me about it, that you were, I didn't get any kind of like codependent energy from you. I just felt like you were taking care of business, but you were also a really respectful person, you know?
Yeah, and that's a really good, like, that's a really good just reminder for everybody that your story, the story that you have right now doesn't need to be the story forever. The way that you see things right now, the way that you perceive the world, the way you see yourself right now doesn't have to be how you continue. You know, I used to be a very different like version of me. So there's another side.
Well, yeah. I've definitely also seen you evolve. You continue to evolve. And the way you evolve, it's not like you're reinventing. I feel like for me, I sometimes am like, I go through these like reinventions, and it's like a total phase. And maybe in some way I see that with you, but more than anything, what I see is a refinement. It's a very clear, purposeful refinement that I see with you.
Yeah,
she is everything.
For that reflection. That's nice.
David goes, she's everything. You see that? Yeah, we're getting lots of wonderful comments. Hi, everybody. Thank you guys for coming in. If you have anything you want to ask about what we're talking about, go ahead and ask away. But yeah, I do want to continue reflecting that you are, you know, in this world, it's really interesting because we didn't come into this world for careers. We didn't enter into meditation for careers. We came for healing.
But we did work, to be fair, we worked in both industries that were very similar. Music industry, PR, very similar to like meditation and healing.
Surprisingly, I find like some really uncomfortable parallels once in a while in the industry at large.
Yeah.
Because there is a component of celebrity. There is a component of like notoriety and publicity, and especially as as people start to realize, well, this is actually legitimate, this is really working, and gorgeous people like Megan Monahan become these best-selling authors, all these other people are like, I don't want to be an actor anymore. I want to be a Megan Monahan now. And so you really do see it. You see it out in the world, and I think it's I want to say it's a net positive, you know. But there is that component where the ego shows up everywhere you go. There you are.
Yeah.
You know, so the ego shows up. You know, we feel competitive. Someone else's book is doing better than mine. It's coming out at the same time. We kind of approach these same topics in different ways, you know.
The story, like this, your story will show up wherever you can't outrun the story that you're telling yourself, because you will tell that story to yourself regardless of the job you're in, regardless of who you're dating, regardless of what you look like. It will follow you until you acknowledge it and start to like work with it, until you start to like get into a relationship with that story and create healing and shifts and transformation. And yeah,
definitely. And I find that when I take your classes, you're one of the few colleagues who I like repeatedly take the classes of, you know. I really love your approach. It is different than my approach, but I really resonate. I feel like they're very complementary. And what I love about your classes is especially the way you describe things, because I think the way you describe things and the way you talk, first of all, is a reflection of how you've processed. It's so relatable, and it's just, you've clearly processed these challenging topics, and then by discussing them in the ways that you do, all the meditation classes that you teach at My Intent or Unplug or Chopra Center or all the other places where you're available, whenever I'm in those classes, I find that the way you articulate things, it's like the story. It's like you give me language to sort of navigate aspects of my story, you know. And I think that's what's really cool about how you approach it, you know.
Thanks. Do you want to hear my new spiritual metaphor?
Yes.
My newest one about this whole pandemic is that it feels like when you go to the Apple store, and I don't know if this happens in Android, so just play along if it does, but you go to the Apple store and they say, oh, well, your phone or your computer, like it's not dead, like we can bring it back, but we have to restore it back to factory settings. And so all of the apps come off, all of the data that's stored on there comes off, and you can re-download it, but you have to go through the process of like re-downloading. And I feel like we are in this universal massive putting us back to factory settings, like the universal settings. And we're going to have to go back into our lives. And what an opportunity that is to actually have this like blank space where there's all this potential to bring things in again. There's all this, you know, storage available for your life, but we get to ask ourselves, like, what relationships do I want to download back onto like this hard drive? What areas where I'm spending money and time, you know, the resources that I have, you know, what do I really want to load back up into my life? Because right now we're going back to factory settings.
Love that so much. It resonates so much. I just recently bought a new laptop, a new like MacBook Air or something like that. And when I was buying it, I was talking on the phone with someone from AppleCare, and they were saying, do you want us to migrate all the content from your MacBook Pro onto the new MacBook Air or whatever? Yeah. And I had a moment and I was like, no, I don't. I want a fresh start on this one, you know? And that really, really resonates. And we need a mass recalibration. And that's what I love the metaphor that you're using. We do need a mass recalibration. We need individual recalibrations. And we are seeing that the dysfunction that we sort of were somewhat aware of, I think, collectively, politically and socioeconomically, where it's become really blatant.
Yeah.
And so we actually have to have a mass reorganization of how we even approach those things, you know, and that could be kind of daunting, kind of scary.
Yeah, a little bit.
So what's your advice? I mean, everyone within the sound of our voices is a powerful divine creature with infinite potential and the opportunity to actualize that potential. And we are in the pandemic. We're in it. We're in the midst of that factory restoration process that you mentioned. And so right now, what could you, if you could speak into the collective consciousness, which you do, what would you say to us in the midst of this crisis, in the midst of it? What's the info that you would transmit as we make this recalibration?
I think that one of the highest choices that you can make is to invite in the idea that this is happening for you, not to you. And the more that you surrender over your idea of what should be, your idea of what's best for you and your life and the world, the moment that you put the weight and the responsibility that you know best, the moment that you put that down, you open up so much space and so much energy and so much strength to hold space for and to manifest and call in what truly is best for you. I think we get really stuck in the idea of, I know what's best. And I think the universe right now is giving us all collectively permission to not know. And I think the highest thing we can do is surrender and say thank you.
Yeah, I love all of that, and especially love that you said this is permission to not know. So often we feel like we should know or we need to know. Of course, a lot of times we feel like we already do know, but I love that. I love that permission to not know. Yeah. It's okay that you don't have the answers right now. It's okay that you don't exactly know what to do right now. But at by the same token,
and we all don't know. Like, we all don't know. So
that's the permission.
We always have that option in our lives to surrender into, like, show me what the best is. Like, I don't know what's best for me. Like, let me receive what the best and highest next step is. But right now, we all don't know at the same time. And there is such, again, permission in that and power in that for this, like, collective surrender.
And so even though, what I love about what you're saying is I see these two parts. On one hand, we have this permission to not know. And that just is like all the walls come down. That's sort of like decompressing into the present, Mm-hmm. And then you also said, we have this opportunity with this factory restore. Am I saying that right? Restoring to factory settings.
Yeah, restoring to factory settings.
Yeah, in that we also have the opportunity to choose which apps we want to re-download and which ones we can do without in this season. So it's a combination of permission to not know, and then also permission to choose, permission to co-create. And I think that right now, in the context of this idea of the larger scale recalibration we're talking about, we have the opportunity to co-create collectively how we're going to come out on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to bring in a much higher level of discernment, truly, and to be really conscious about, like, what do I want these next steps to be sponsored by? Like, what are the qualities? What are the mindsets that I want to empower, and to be the, like, checks and balances before I say, yes, I'm going to bring this back into my life. Again, person, place, thing, whatever lane it is of your life. Before I bring that in, like, how does this measure up to my desire to be A, B, and C, whatever that is for you?
Right. Okay. So loving everything that you're saying. You are so insightful. You're just such a gift. Everyone, if you're not already following her, follow her, Megan Monahan. So Megan, tell us a little bit about Don't Hate, Meditate, your first book.
You mean this book?
That's the one, which is gorgeous and such a good gift. I've given it, I think I bought 4 right away, and then I bought 8 at another time. So I've bought 12 copies of this book, and I give it to people who've already bought my book. And so that's what I really love about it, is that I love that you have I love that it resonates as true for me, what you write in it. And I love that you have a completely different approach, so I feel like our content is so yin and yang, so complementary to each other. So talk to us a little bit about about that content?
Yeah. So the main kind of intention with the book was to kind of bridge the conversations that are like deeply esoteric about consciousness, about meditation, about right that conversation with the like what does this actually look like in your life, and how do I do these things in my life, or how do I right align with these things. So keeping with the idea that the lens that you see the world through is not a fixed one. We talked about that at the beginning. Like you can change how you perceive what's happening around you and within you. And so I identified 5 key areas that really showed up in my journey when I was starting to do this, which were the mindsets of presence, acceptance, intention, non-judgment, and trust. So the first part of the book is kind of why we meditate, how to meditate, and then you take a quiz and you get a really good baseline for what your relationship is with those 5 key areas. And then the rest of the book goes into all 5, and there's specific meditations and exercises and anecdotes and ridiculous spiritual metaphors and philosophy to give you a different relationship with those things. So instead of just like, oh, I should be more present, you know, what does that actually look like in my life, and where does that show up in a way that I care about?
Love it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So don't hate, meditate. What's your subtitle again?
5 easy practices to get you through the hard shit and into the good. Just to keep it edgy.
I did know that.
You did know that.
Yeah, it is edgy. Yeah, you're edgy, but you're just so the right amount of edgy. I feel like you're just so the exact right amount of edgy. And I just also want to say I totally see your star on the rise. You're at the very, very beginning of what you're doing in the world, and I can just totally see there's going to be millions of people who begin to access your content, who are blessed by the vulnerability with which you share your journey. It's not that we read your book and we start to read all of your deepest, darkest challenges and secrets, but you have a lot of vulnerability with just the fluidity that you share yourself with. So how did you get comfortable doing that?
Yeah, so the book isn't like, here's my story and here's, you know, but it definitely is like, here's what this looks like for me, or here was the time, you know, I think it's important to relate to people. So if you do that through stories that don't involve you, that's fine too. But I always feel really comfortable and happy to share when it's something that I have done a fair amount of work in and that I have processed. You know, I can always tell when I'm tempted to start like speaking on the thing that I'm still internally like navigating and ruminating with. You know, I think I really try to stay in integrity with not processing on other people's time, whether that's in front of you in a meditation class or in a book. You know, I didn't write this book for my healing. Like I did this for you as an act of service for you, from what I've learned and what's worked for me and what has helped me transform my life. And there's nothing wrong with the alternative, but for me, I think vulnerability feels really in integrity when it aligns with that, when it's an act of service to share something about me or about my life or about what I've learned or a story, rather than my ego being like, well, let me talk about me for a minute, and did you know about this other thing that I did, and let's talk about this one time when I was 3, right? If that's not helpful, like that doesn't get shared.
Totally. Yeah. I actually recently had a conversation with someone on an Instagram live and it was like, you are processing unprocessed content right now, my friend. So yeah, that's something really, really cool that you do. I feel like you're very conscious about your approach. You're definitely the real deal. So I just so appreciate like your time and being able to do this. And I will say, every time I've ever reached out to you, you have really, really been there with like a really balanced response. I don't feel coddled by you, but I also don't feel like talked down or reprimanded or something like that. I feel like you're really realistic and balanced. Do you feel like you're that way with yourself?
I'm sure I'm way harsher with myself. I definitely don't coddle myself. You know, I've gotten way better with my self-talk and with how I, you know, nurture my own needs. So yeah, on a good day, I think that I have a good balance between like the teacher in me and the, you know, the very human in me. And I think I have pretty good boundaries with myself around when I try to like do work, you know, internally, and I know when I can be doing that, and I know when I just need to like take a break and just chill for a minute. And I think as a teacher, I'm sure you feel this too, you know, there's that balance. There's that balance internally that has to happen.
Yeah, totally. Okay. And so on a mass scale, on the level of society and culture, I really like to hear some of the things that you say. You often address privilege and race,
Yeah.
and cultural appropriation, which is really big in our community, a really, really important topic. Because there is a fine line between celebrating another culture, recognizing, honoring another culture, and appropriating it and taking advantage of something that's not yours. So, would you be down to talk about sort of like, especially if possible, through like the lens of what it means to be healthy in our relationship to each other's culture?
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say too that every, when I even kind of use that line about like the universe is giving you permission to not know and you should say thank you and surrender, that even that statement comes with a lens of that's easier to do if you're not constantly worried about your survival in some way, shape, or form, whether that's the roof over your head or the food you're eating or your physical safety. I think that, to be fair, I think that that concept of surrender, of trust, of faith, of detachment, of connecting with a source so that your bank account isn't the source of safety or the food on your table isn't the source of safety, that all still holds true, but it's a much heavier weight to do reps with if you are physically using your mental energy to survive and stay alive in a very real way. So, you know, even statements like that, you know, I try to be very conscious about staying aligned with what I believe to be true for every single person, but also recognizing that every single person is not coming to that concept from the same reality. And I think it's really easy to throw out these statements that you know, kind of flippantly, that are like, oh, just trust and surrender, and you know. And I think that it's important that there's an understanding about that. I was even conscious about that when I was, you know, writing the book, about the lens that I was writing from when I was talking about, you know, these concepts. So I think it's kind of a non-negotiable as a spiritual teacher that you know, we're doing some kind of work around our relationship with race, around our relationship with culture, and how we're using it, and all of that. So, what was the question?
Thank you for that. Well, really just wanted to hear like your reflection on, you know, in the context, I guess, of the reality that we are in this sort of like quiet time collectively. And so based on that, there is also an assumption of a collective recalibration on the level of perception and sort of our collective lens. What do you see? What do you see as like an important thing for us to keep in mind when it comes to things like race or cultural appropriation?
Yeah, I think right now more than ever, it's important to authentically connect with your truth and the source that is coming from, and to not just be like trying on other people's truths with whatever costume they come in, with whatever rituals they come in. You know, I think sometimes those can be like entryways, but I think that in order to truly like embody and understand any of these lineages really of knowledge, it's important to connect with your truth, and to be respectful of that, and not go from like the outside in, if that makes sense. To like connect with your truth and then find the expression that mirrors that is in alignment with that. Because I think there's just a lot of trying on of other people's truths, and what those truths, you know, look like and sound like, and I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And then there's also the reality that to get to know another culture is not the same thing as to wear the costume.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
to learn and to even to immerse yourself in a culture is not the same thing as to wear the costume and
Yeah.
make it your like Instagram profile pic, you know.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I don't, you know, I was initiated into a lineage of meditation that was, you know, based in Eastern traditions in India. You know, I don't wear a sari. So again, no judgment. Everyone's doing what they're doing and on their own path. But yeah, I think it's important to have a lot of awareness around that.
Love
and I
it.
think too,
You're
like
the
there are
best,
certain
Megan.
like words that we use. Like I don't really use the word tribe because that word has never really felt great to me for whatever reason. And again, no judgment if that's your word. Like I'm not here to be like, don't use the word tribe if you're not like part of an indigenous culture. But I think there are little ways that it shows up in like pop culture that we don't even realize. Just to your point.
And I also feel, so for me, with a Christian background, I was really raised around the notion of the 12 tribes of Israel. And there's a special ceremony when I was 14 years old where I was like adopted into the tribe of Ephraim, and it was this whole elaborate ritual. And so I do have like a personal association with that word. But that's an example of one of the words that I think, first of all, does have very deep, profound meaning for some people. And it's not the same thing as a posse. It's not the same thing as like a crew, you know? So when people are like, find your tribe, it's like, they kind of mean like, find your posse, find your crew, find your peeps, you know? And then there is also another component of separativeness, you know? It's like there is like tribalism itself it does have like a separation kind of quality to it. So even in the context of like my initiation into the tribe of Ephraim, there was this reality where it was like, this is actually not about being in a separate tribe. This is about the gathering of all of the tribes.
Yeah, and we're all what Ram Dass is really famous, is quoted as saying, you know, we're all walking each other home. We're all finding the path, whether it's the path that we were born onto with some religion, with some source of belief, or one that we find later in life. We're all finding the path, and then we're all going to end up in the same place. I think it's just being really respectful of the fact that everyone's path is different and looks different, and there's some, you know, understanding and respect there.
Yes, I love it. Understanding and respect. Oh, you're killing it, Megan Monahan. All right, well, I am going to let you get back to your evening. I'm so grateful that we had this time together. This is going to be up on YouTube and everything tomorrow. So everyone, thank you so much for watching. And Megan, dude, what a wonderful honor to do this with you. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, I had so much fun. Anytime.
Yes. Okay, cool. We'll have to definitely 100% do it again.
I would love that. Love you.
Love you too. See you soon, Megan. Bye, everybody.